Okay, kicking things off on another turn. I've swung through everybody's. The jihadists went for increased production, essentially. They're playing this because the U.S. did disrupt before, so they get a free sell they got in Pakistan, and they got a card draw for it. So it's kind of a free play because of that, replenishing their hand. And the card they actually drew was the next one they played, which didn't have an effect for the event, but they put some additional sleeper cells into Central Asia. Now, the U.S. fired off a quick disruption and got itself some prestige off that. But then they had this cool card, former Soviet Union, secular authoritarianism, set Central Asia to neutral and made it check its governance as if in an initial test. So it's not poor. It's no longer an Islamist state, which is kind of cool from the U.S. point of view. That's cleared out the Islamist things. It's still a poor quality state, so it's still a threat here. We'd want it to try to target the cells, but it looks pretty clear that the Islamists are now beginning to get significant, enough to be protected, basically, that the U.S. can't just wipe them out easily. Pakistanis attempted some travel. I think they tried to go to the Philippines. They probably should have just shifted into Indonesia, but they want to get into position for the weapons of mass destruction there. And they also tried some recruitment as well in the Philippines with a single point there, and that didn't work either. For the U.S., they attempted to swing Jordan. Right now, they're getting pretty close. They only need 3 more points. It's not easily available, but say an oil spike were available, well, that's 2 more. So there's another one here if they could have gotten it. They didn't. They don't have an oil spike, but the Islamist jihadist player doesn't know that. And then they played this card, which isn't going to hurt them because it can only be played if the first card of jihadist action phase. And they did that to pull their troops home out of Pakistan. Hey, Pakistan's pretty stable. There might be a reason to leave a couple there, but I don't really see it. I've got troops in Afghanistan where they're really needed. Elsewhere, the rest of the world, you know, there may be a time to reposition, but not right now. Well, the jihadists made an attempt to drop more units into the U.S. They failed. Now they've done another one using clean operatives to pull them out of Central Asia. Pushed them into here. Managed to actually try to trigger 2 plots. If they had gotten 2 successes, they would have put weapons mass destruction in there. They didn't get that. They only got 1. So they chose not to because the U.S. has 2 cards. They think there's too much of a chance. On 2 cards, they can go for reserves. As long as they have 3 points, they can kill that plot. They got another plot over here in the Philippines, though. Now, the U.S. happens to have KSM. I can get rid of both plots because they're ally or non-Muslim countries. I get 2 bonus cards, and this card's removed. Big deal for taking him out, but luckily there were no WMD plots in play. And we'll have to see what else we have there. We have 1 more card play to go, and I have to think. So the U.S. fired off that India-Pakistan talks you saw there. Those are in place here now. I have to keep this card face up because it's removed if a plot is resolved in India, the counter. And that's not, again, clear off the counter itself. Only so much information you can put on them. Luckily, this is a remove from play card, so I can keep that over there. It doesn't go back in the deck and start causing problems. Other cards played, Special Forces. I just spent it for the 1 to get rid of the cells in the U.S. No prestige bonus for that. And now I can play this because I got the India-Pakistan talks, and I did so to take another shot at making Jordan good. That didn't work. No bonuses there. Quick resorting of points. Well, since the plots didn't go off, the funding is getting down a little bit. Prestige, there's no Islamicist countries, so no penalty anymore. A plus for prestige? No. Assuming that's correct, and I think it is. It's got to be within 1. And we get to new hands, and we're on to another turn as soon as this, which had no effect, is gotten rid of. Well, the game is over. The Islamicists immediately moved a couple of people over into the United States using Saddam captured card, then played this nest that they really want to make sure ends up out of play. This would have been a WMD harming type thing. Chances are they wouldn't put a WMD with it if they got it. They played it as a plot to try to get an attack on the U.S. They want to see if they could force the U.S. to try to cancel a plot. They didn't get one. It would have been an unlikely chance. But, boom, 2-point, swung Jordan, had the oil price spike. It doesn't even matter what I draw for it. I can find some card or another to help myself. But that gives 1. And then 2 more for the 2 oil producing things. And at this point, the U.S. player has absolutely won a complete victory. Obviously I made some mistakes again. You know, any game like this, it's tough to keep an eye on the rules. And I do want to, I'm going to hit this in my review, no question, but it's a tough game to catch all of the information. In a sense, you almost kind of want to write down some of these events because these counters are not sufficient for them. I didn't think that would be the case, but certainly next time I play, I will be keeping better track of things. But another problem, you know, there's a lot here to suck in terms of a lot of information about the game, within the game itself, that it's very easy on initial playings to screw some things up, to think you know what you're doing, but not maybe look things up. At least if you're me and you're kind of sloppy, right? Careful play leads you to bogging down on reading these and trying to figure out what can I do, and then you kind of lose perspective of what you're trying to do overall. But shooting from the hip, you end up, at least if you're me, not paying enough attention to these suckers and kind of losing track of, the rigid set of rules themselves that you have to follow. However, even with some screw-ups, I think it's kind of an interesting situation. And certainly, once you're familiar with it, I think it will work fairly well. Incidentally, I was, someone suggested, and I don't remember who, because unfortunately I delete from my requests list, but someone suggested looking at some videos that were essentially the BBC documentary on the Pakistani betrayal or double dealing, or however you want to put it. I just made my way through the first one. I'll watch the second one after I review this fully. But I'm left with the question of, okay, so why are all these Taliban guys betraying Pakistan for this? Well, I think the issue is that enough information's out already, but we'll see if the other video gives more. It kind of surprised me there. Anyway, I'm going to send this one up. I know it's kind of short. There's not a lot to say. It definitely, as the game progresses, it seems like both players get closer to some sort of victory in here. And, I mean, we're almost all the way through the second deck here. It almost feels to me like the game is designed and meant to be played with at least 2 to 3 decks, which kind of puts into question the value of the campaign game, because you'll be playing about half a deck maybe to see if you can get an auto win off the other guy sleeping, a fool's gambit or something. But other than that, I see the one deck really playing to a very, very specific okay, I'm going to go for, the end of game victory conditions and only that, which is kind of a little strange. I'm not sure how I feel about some of these. Maybe some of these other scenarios are better in short deck. You can see, though, that the mission accomplished one, they suggest not playing without 2 to 3 decks because it's kind of unbalanced if you play it in one. And it would strike me that really the first scenario, while maybe not unbalanced in a single deck game, you're losing a lot of the flavor of the game. And even though it seems like you're playing with the same deck, I'd probably want to always play with 2 or 3 decks, 2 deck minimum here. And it's not that it's that long, you can certainly get a 2 deck game in, I think, in a reasonable sized session, even by modern standards, 4 or 5 hours maybe. I'd think it takes maybe an hour or 2 per deck, basically, depending on how familiar people are, whatever with it. Anyway, I'll come back with the actual review where, I talk more amorphously about the game as to its impressions rather than, the kind of detailed criticism that people are used to in reviews, I guess.